Welcome to the BeCollaboration Journey of Possibility conversation with my co-host Erkan Ali, myself Gill, Tiney, and our very special guest,
extra special guest,
Mr. Nick Horton. Welcome.
Hi. Welcome, Nick.
Welcome.
So you're 6 months in, aren't you?
Yes.
How does it feel?
Part of a journey. I mean, it sounds like a cliche in the journey of possibility, but it is. I mean, after 6 months, I said it in the car on the way back from last night. So you move from A to B, and I know I've moved from A to B. I can feel I've moved from A to B.
Yeah.
But there's also that kind of excitement of, oh, there's a long way to go here.
C, D, E, F, G, H.
When you start moving, you start realising how far there is to go. But when you're still, you feel like with the smallest things you've like travelled so far, but you haven't really.
No,
you kind of occupying yourself. So first of all, for us, this is a real opportunity to explore, to challenge each other, to have some fun, maybe get a bit serious. Nobody's walked off yet, so you know, it's always the first. One question I want to ask you. So, you live in Hertford.
Yes.
How did you end up in Hertford?
Very good question. So my best friend who lived was in the same corridor as me in the house of residence at university. So I've known him since the age of 17. So I'm not going to tell you how many years that is, but you can guess.
Sometime.
12 maybe.
So I was his best man, he was my best man, all that kind of jazz.
Lovely.
And he lives in Hertford.
Okay.
And so when I came back from Japan, I lived in the central London for 9 months and absolutely hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And then had a chat with him and he said, have a look around Hertford. And
The rest is history.
the rest is history. So here we are.
How long ago was that?
That was 2013, so I rented for a while and then decided roots down and Hertford is just around the corner.
Yeah, that's what you two both think then.
Yeah, good fun. So, what some people have been saying to us when they first come to BeCollaboration is it's very confusing in various ways. How did you find it when you first arrived, and what was the catalyst that made you go, do you know what, I want to be part of this crazy bunch, even if I don't understand it?
I didn't know quite how crazy it was.
You hadn't let all that out at that point, yeah.
Well, I guess two questions. I guess the collaboration part for me was, and the B, but the collaboration, I guess, is the bit that resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it was just a conversation in passing. Somebody mentioned the word BeCollaboration. I kind of went, oh.
Rewind.
What was that you said?
Hold on a minute.
Tell me a little bit more about that, please. And
What did they tell you?
Do you know what? I can't honestly remember. It was Tracy Hardacre and Andrew Fairclough. It was part of BNI, and it was a conversation I had with them. And there's something around. I can't remember honestly what the context was now, but I just remember the collaboration. And I was like, ooh, tell me more. Hold on. And then. So that was the initial kind of spark of interest, if you like.
Yeah.
And then I turned up. I think I just went on the website, didn't I? And I just kind of said, I would like to come and do it. I sent a polite email back. We're looking forward to having you.
So Jill wasn't doing the emails back then, because horrible. Are they just for me, horrible emails?
Yeah.
So
it's just as easy as that?
Yeah.
It was as easy as that. And then I rocked on up, and I guess there's two things I remember about when I first turned up was I personally wasn't quite ready, and I remember having this conversation with both of you because, and I could tell you why I wasn't ready, because at the end of every meeting you say to come and join us in the bar.
Right.
And I actually started feeling anxious about going to go meet new people in the bar. And it had nothing to do with BeCollaboration, it could have been anybody.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know what? Not quite ready for this yet. So that was in, I think, in November, something like November last year. And I think I was still a bit like a bunny in the headlights there, so I kind of like left it. And then I came back in January, I think it was. And my first impressions was, again, it was that the word that keeps, it's collaboration. It was just kind of, oh, hello, this is a group of people who are genuinely supporting each other, and it's done in a very kind of engaging, fun, relaxed format. And I think if I was to give one sentence that sums it up, it is you can be who you are in the room, and that was the lasting impression when I walked away. And that's when I went, I'm in.
Okay. I think it probably helped that I stalked you quite a little bit as well.
Well,
we kept bumping into each other, didn't we?
Yes.
I don't know where you live.
We didn't know we were neighbours until.
You walk out your house, he's just standing there. He's left the house. He's got in the car.
Don't tell my secrets. What happened? No, he literally walked across the cricket field, and as he's coming out of this bush through the bushes, he came out of the bush.
I came out of the bush.
But I was kind of waiting for you. Stood there ages waiting, and then we were walking into town, and then we ended up both going to the choir at the same time. We're like,
that was, I was like, that was all in the space of a few weeks, wasn't it?
I think it was a few days, something like that,
It was interesting because I spoke to one of our guests yesterday, and he said, what we're doing in BeColl is incredible, and he said, I lost my train of thought there, but he said that, you know what, I've gone, I was holding it, and I thought, as soon as I hold it, I'll forget it, but it was this kind of, so I wanted to ask you a question, what is it about collaboration? Because obviously, until you get involved with something, you have no idea that you don't know. It's on the other side of a wall. It's now you're making your relationship with it. But you obviously already had an interest in this idea of collaborating and collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think that is that something that's been a theme in your life, or is it something that's kind of emerging for you, or how would you articulate that?
It popped into my life. I wouldn't say it was a feature of my life, but it definitely popped into my life in 2003. I still remember the year. And I was in Japan doing a job that didn't exactly inspire me. But what did inspire me was Japan. So I was in the right place, but doing the wrong thing. And I remember sitting there going, well, why am I doing this? And the answer was, I'm doing it for money. And don't we all? And I was thinking, well, and then kind of like the few questions popped into my brain. I've got kind of like a kind of vivid imagination, quite a lateral thinker, so I was kind of like, well, money, what's money? Never really asked myself that question before. And why do we have to do stuff for money? And
just because everybody else is.
Yeah, I kind of sat there thinking, well, and then at that moment in time, I thought of setting up a currency because I wanted to. Because my father and my uncle were both entrepreneurs, and we've been brought up around entrepreneurs. You kind of know and feel and smell how entrepreneurs think and work. And although I'd had jobs in that field, in that genre, there was always kind of like pushing the edges, pushing the boundaries, which is something that always excites me. But so I thought to myself, well, if I want to be an entrepreneur, and what's stopping me is that need for money, then how do I replace money? And I thought, well, okay, I can't be the only person in this space that thinks like this. So why don't we have a currency for entrepreneurs where we can just swap services? And then we don't need that awful thing called money. We can go off and do our own thing. So, and that led to, that was in 2003. And that, I went down, spoke to some programmers and realised that the world wasn't quite in that space, and B, the technology actually in 2003, you go back to that space and we had internet, but it was really basic, it was HTML. And I kind of hit so many brick walls and thought, okay, this isn't going to happen. And
everything.
So would you say you were starting to have ideas about something like Bitcoin or some kind of digital currency, or was it more of a medium to swap? Was it more of a swaporama,
like a
swap shop?
Yeah, I think that's where the collaboration came in, because the collaboration is, you've all got people kind of like supporting each other, and you all have services or skills sets that you want to exchange for each other, but it doesn't necessarily need to be that straight. What you do, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. It can go around in a circle. So I think that was where the currency came in. So the platform, the currency. We use the word currency, and actually it's a medium of exchange is a better word.
Yes.
It's purely a medium of exchange. So it's going right back to to the markets when the peasants had enough food to start bartering in the bar. It's really where it's taking it back to.
I don't know if you know, but you're aware that the terminology and the language, once you start asking those questions, like, what is money? Why do I need money? Where does it come? You start that for me is like your genius is starting to go, hold on a minute. But there's language that gives a lot of things away. So bank is what?
Yes.
You think of it as a building, don't you? And a bit like Barclays.
Yes.
But a bank is something that sits on a riverbed.
Yes.
What's a current? Currency flows all the money back to them. So all these things are hidden in language when we talk about these things.
Yes.
But because we have not been, this is kind of what we call term occult knowledge. It's hidden from us, but it's there. It's in plain view. And when you start extrapolating language, like mortgage is death grip. But you're in the middle of.
Of course, yeah. Mort.
Mort. Okay.
Yes, Latin for
You know, and so all these things are embedded in language, but the common parlance or our understanding of it, we don't know. Well, what about changes? We don't know the language that, if you like, the people that own the banks and run the corporations and run the governments are using. We're the effect of it.
Yes.
And then if you use the word spell, what is a spell?
Well, it can be it's a witch, or it can be put an ing on it. It means something completely different.
Yeah, but if you think of a spell, is the words are the spells, because we're in the illusion of certain things like money is real.
Spell time as well.
Spell, yeah, but spell like as in like
yeah.
a
but there's lots of different
Yeah.
ways of looking at language and how it's adopted and what it's meant to mean and what it means now. And
for sure, but why interesting though, right? So when you talk about money and currency, why is there currency and why is there banks and where does it all go? Where does the currency flow to? It's not flowing down, is it?
No.
We were talking about that the other day. But it's interesting. You started asking these questions and you kind of putting. Hold on a minute.
Yeah, it was just kind of. And then, I'll be honest with you, I got swept underneath the because I hit so many barriers, and I felt I was on my own, and you're in a foreign country, foreign language, foreign culture, so there wasn't a support network around it, there was just too much to do, too hard, and I left it. And then, of course, we move on to 2008.
fast forward a bit,
and thoughts around currency suddenly come back to the fore, don't they? Because we have a global financial crisis. I was working in the financial industry. In fact, I've met the person who invented the instrument that created the security-backed, mortgage. So, lovely person. Didn't know where that, obviously had no idea where that was going to lead the world. But so you move on to that, and then hold on a minute. I remember that. I had a thought around that, and then I did a bit of digging, and then Bitcoin was right at the beginning of its existence. So we're talking 2000.
Did Bitcoin emerge ahead of the pack, or was it like there was lots of digital currencies starting to pop? Because I really don't remember.
I think Bitcoin was the beginning.
I think it was the one that hit the public consciousness the most. Now, I don't actually know. I don't have deep enough knowledge to actually categorically say.
Was it like a Betamax VHS?
Yeah,
there might have been.
And then suddenly,
but I don't have that. I don't have that deeper dive, so
Logic
there might not have been there. But certainly Bitcoin, and then by the time I came back to Japan in 2012, and then I'd heard that the things like the Brixton Pound were starting to pop up.
Yeah.
And the Brixton Pound was an interesting concept. And the Brixton Pound was exactly where I got my brain to as a community. I mean, there's a wider community, but they were wanting to keep a currency in a community.
Doesn't Bristol do it as well?
Bristol, Torness, I think was another one. And actually, we did the 600. And,
is there?
But I mean, we're including like knitting circles now, so. But there are a lot more of these kind of little tiny community currencies than I mean the big ones are Bristol and Brixton.
Have you come across the Ubuntu movement?
Is that in Switzerland?
He's based in South Africa, but they've started a town in Canada that's being used as an experiment around the whole town having this exchange of service, and it is a case of, well, you do something for me, but if you do something for him, and then I do something for him, so it's not necessarily we pay each other, but and so every week the mayor of this town in Canada reports back on how it's going.
Oh, wow.
And every time you see him, he's like, it's amazing. He's just blown away by how everybody's got together. But it had to be a very close-knit community, and it had to be with everyone's permission, and they're all ready for it. That's just amazing. So he's proven it can happen.
Michael Tellinger.
That's it.
And they call it, I think he calls it one small town.
Yeah.
So one small town at a time.
Yeah.
To kind of turn. So but with the conversation with Nick about if every small town or every little small community, like town or village, whatever, started to create its own wealth, and that wealth stayed in there, they're creating far more than they ever could need. Because you think about it, with or without money, we're all doing things for each other.
He wants a cashless society, doesn't he? But he's coming to the UK, if you're interested. August Bank Holiday weekend.
Yes.
I can't make it.
Yeah, shame. I think I'm going. I think I am.
Yeah.
So it's, maybe
I'll do it, fella.
What?
I don't know, do something live from there or something.
Oh,
so
okay.
take it with you. You two do something, report back, and I'll go to that.
Oh no, I'd love to hear that.
But would you say that so go back, because what I've been saying I picked up on, that's actually quite interesting, is that your dad, right, and he was entrepreneurial.
Yes.
And so for me, a lot of entrepreneurs things don't quite work out in the schooling, or they're quite, because you said he wasn't overly pro schooling, was he? So I imagine that's a sign of being slightly, I'm going to say not resistant but dismissive of authority at the level that I'm going to do what I want. I want to do what I'm making it up because that's how it feels for me. But so this idea of things don't have to be the way they've been presented, was that something that kind of dawned on you in 03, or was it? Do you feel like it was suppressed and then started to come back again? Because growing up with an entrepreneurial father, I imagine.
Oh, that's a really good question. So I think the answer to that, and I'm now making this up as I go along, so it's based on a feeling, but my feeling is that if you're brought up by an entrepreneur, then you are, in fact I know we are encouraged to think very laterally.
Yeah.
I think one of the books I was given for Christmas was In Success Find Failure and Failure Find Success, and that was very much part of my father's mantra, but that word, think laterally, was a large part of the vocabulary of my childhood. So it was there. It almost certainly did get suppressed because I went through the full extent of the education system. So, right through school, university, postgraduate. So, that doesn't really encourage, or kind of like is kind of learn this, chew it and spit it back out. Add a little bit of your own spice to it, but it's not really a huge amount of lateral thinking in that system. So
and generally, they ridicule the whole personal development movement, or out of the because we
that's
talk about
sweeping statement.
No, but if you go high up in any academic circles, it becomes narrower and narrower and narrower. So if you start, so why there not any? I don't think actually it is. I think that's partly the problem of academia. Is it becomes more and more mainstream thinking because you get funded by corporations, you get what they call tenure. So if you start talking outside the mainstream, you lose your job, you lose your pension, you get ridiculed. So a lot of this stuff has gone off with the internet now. A lot of it's gone out of mainstream, and people are doing things outside of it and creating content and talking about these things.
It was interesting you mentioned the internet there, but I think that's a great medium now for exploring, because there wasn't really, if you think of that system I've just talked about, I didn't have any choices around that. The internet didn't exist, and
if you love learning,
if you love learning and you want to be a good boy and you want to kind of please your parents and be part of society, then you do go down that, you get channeled down that path. I have no regrets going down that path, but it definitely, I think there are parts of academia which do encourage lateral thinking, but the one I went down, definitely not. I think in 2003 it was kind of like that was a bit of an aha moment, and it was both. I think all these aha moments, isn't it? Is it adversity is the mother of all invention? Yeah. And I think that's exactly where I got to was I was so miserable. Yeah. I was trying to think of a way out of it, and that's when the lateral thinking really does kick in, doesn't it?
I did that a little bit when I had a job that I really didn't like. The lateral thinking, how do I get out? I know, pregnant. I'm on maternity leave, thank you very much. And then while I had maternity leave, it's a bit drastic, isn't it? While I had maternity leave, I was like, there's no way am I going back.
We don't have that option.
No, it's a shame, isn't it? It's quite great being a woman.
So, but at the time, you've gone through formal education, Was that by... See, my dad never really encouraged me to go to, he's like, if you want to go, go. If you don't, personally, I'd recommend you get into business because you can do what you want. You don't have to be beholden to anybody else shaping your life for you in the same way. But you went through that, but when did that, it was a career at the time. Obviously, you just mentioned you met the person that came up with mortgage-backed securities, right?
Yeah.
So what were you actually doing at that time?
Well, to answer that question, rewind a little bit. Okay. So, my father's an entrepreneur, and the reason I went down the academic route, it was my ticket out of the situation I found myself in. I had to get out of. We don't have enough time to go into that now, but I needed academia to get out of that situation. I realised that I went bumbling way through school, and I was happy-go-lucky, and I was in A to D. I was in a C set for most of my life, and then I suddenly got to when it came to GCSE, or the O levels as they were in Scotland then, and then the highers, and I was kind of like, oh, this is crunch time. This is do or die. And I remember thinking about it, going, oh wow, if I don't perform here, I'm stuck. I'm really, really stuck here. So, which when you look at it now, is a terrible way of thinking. But that was, as a 15 or 16-year-old, that's how I saw the world. So I surprised everyone, including myself. Like, I want to put my head down and focused on it. I could actually, and so that took me back down the academic route, and then.
But what was the subject?
And then I was going to join my father's business, and then and we were looking at where I was in Scotland, and we thought the best training that was around at the time was chartered accountancy. And there's two reasons for doing that. One was that it was a fallback position, and then I could go and join the family business later on.
What was the family business?
Foundry.
Foundry?
Yeah. So
what, in Scotland?
Yeah. So
is it still going?
Yeah, so my
you see where I'm going with this,
well, no, of course it's not. Of course it's not. There's no foundries left in this country. They're all in China. But my family, my father and his grandfather are all from Sheffield. So that's where the foundry of the steel. So, if you want to get on in life in Sheffield, you were going to probably go down that. You're probably going to go down that route. So the academia of accountancy was, and the other thing I found out was that was also a ticket back to Japan. So
financial
was, yes, because we kind of skipped this part, but I went out to Japan as part of a youthful adventure when I graduated, and I was age 22. There was a recession. It was 1992. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and applied for about 3 jobs. I thought, this is a complete waste of time. Why on earth am I doing this? And again, a bit of lateral thinking. So someone said,
how am I going to get back to Japan?
well, then someone said you can do this course in Japanese, and you spend 9 months in Japan, and then you go 9 months in Scotland, 6 months in Japan. I thought, oh wow, what an opportunity! I get that qualification, and I can go and sell it off to the highest bidder, and etc., etc. And then after I'd done that, I wanted to stay in Japan, and then that's when I worked out, okay. These guys, the second largest economy in the world, their accountancy qualification is awful. They've got a lot of inward investment, no one to look after those kind of investment. So if I go and I've got a fairly logical kind of numerical brain, so I can go and do that and go back to Japan. Do you know what? It worked. I was literally, even before I qualified, I'd done the exams, but I hadn't got the results. I was out because exactly the reasons I just mentioned.
What drew you to Japan? I mean, it's such a different culture to England, isn't it? I mean, what was it?
We're in Scotland.
We're in Scotland, yeah. Oh, was you in Scotland by then?
Yes, this was age of 8 we moved to Scotland.
Oh, okay.
So that's the accent.
I don't know. He sounds Japanese to me.
Well, in Scotland it's an English accent. It's Scottish, and somewhere in between is my homeland, and I'm not finding it.
So did anyone understand you in Japan? Because what's that?
Japanese
from South Africa.
Exactly. Why Japan? Do you know what? It could have been any country. It was something completely different. And it was just timing. So much of life is around timing. Someone put that in front of me. It could have been any country in the world, but it was the fact it was different and exotic.
Yes.
And in 1993, we weren't globalised No. You know, I went out there was no internet. I got the football results in a little piece of paper this much on Monday morning of the Japan Times, and would communicate with people letters. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
So I had my friends, you know, we talk about Andy,
Yes.
the reason for coming to Harvard, we were writing to each other and he used to send me tapes in the post.
Bless him.
The letters. And it's not funny how, you know, and the next time I went back in 1999, the internet was here, and
Everything's changed.
everything, the world had changed then, and Skype had come along.
Have you kept any of those letters?
I don't think I have actually. No.
Sorry,
It's a
Andy.
dying art. Yeah.
Sorry, Andy.
I think it's lovely when you keep little notes and letters that people have in the past, and you look back at them like 15, 20, 30 years later, and it's like, you just remember that memory, it just brings it all back.
I do keep all the letters. It was when I first met my wife in 2000, so when I was back in Japan the second time. I'm skipping all over the place here.
You don't worry
Keep them
about
confused.
Don't worry about
what
chronology, it's fine.
There's no chronological order to this, but and so she was in, her family's from Kyoto, which is the old capital of Japan, and I remember the first time I went back in 1993. I was working in Kyoto. I didn't meet, and so I met her in Tokyo. But then when I went back to go and visit her parents for the first time, meet the parents, actually it went really well. But they were very, very.
At last, we found someone to quick.
I feel ignore that.
That's what he said.
It's okay.
But when I went back to it, I thought, I recognise this place. The place I'd been working 6 years before in Kyoto was 5 minutes walk from where she lived.
Wow.
Yeah, wasn't full circle.
Timing, isn't it? Yeah. Perfect.
And there was a reason why we got onto. Why did we get onto Akihara? Do you know what? I can't remember.
No idea. So how long were you in Japan in total then? It's quite a while, wasn't it?
15 years.
Yeah. And then, so what brought you back?
Over 3 different periods.
So I was just going to say, we started originally talking about collaboration and how it has an impact on you, and you mentioned earlier about Collabo World.
Yes. Oh yes.
So just fill us in on that.
Yes. Well, I guess that was part of the BeCollaboration. Tell me again about that.
Yeah.
Because when I came back to the UK, I left Japan because basically the adventure was over. I'd been there long enough, and the job had gone nowhere. I'd done as much as I wanted to do. Got the T-shirt, travelled throughout Asia, kind of looked at you, put my best puppy eyes and said, "Do you fancy going back to the UK?"
Oh.
And as ever, she very courageously came back with decided to come back.
Because for her that had meant leaving family, all her friends.
Yeah, but they'd been lived in South America, so they're quite used to travelling when she was a child. But the clever was, when I came back from Japan, I was like, right, my chance. That dream in 2003, now is my time. And at that point, when I came back in 2012, no one had really actually heard of Bitcoin. Bitcoin hadn't really hit the public consciousness. It's strange to think that now, isn't it?
It's only 6
It was, I think, around $5 or $6 per Bitcoin. So, you know,
It's got to be at least 8 or 9.
why did I start mining? You know, etc., etc. But yeah, you can imagine. So Bitcoin was, and then I joined so I needed a vehicle, something to help me to get this going. So I had no idea what am I going to do. I've just got this idea. So there was this school for startups, which was run by an entrepreneur that used to be on Dragon's Den, and I thought, I'll take my idea to them, and they said, well, okay, we have no idea how to make a business out of this yet,
Right.
but yeah, we'll give you all the tools around how you need to think and look at a business, and then you can go and work out how you're going to turn this into business. So I went down that route, and as part of that, my idea was to take my ideas, work with the bricks and pounds. So I was working with the bricks and pound for a while, and that company I set up was called Collabo World. And because, you know, it's all in your talk, so, you know, what's the best way of describing it? It does what it says on the tin.
Yeah.
Collabo World. It was about collaboration, so I decided to go down that route, work with the bricks and pound, and I was well on, kind of like, I hit a lot of roadblocks, but I was making progress, and then my health fell off the cliff. And so unfortunately all those plans got shelved. But interestingly, while I was kind of ended up working for the school for startups. And while I was in it, because I was helping them give advice around loans for the government scheme called startup loans, which is all around giving loans, because and at that point there was no jobs. And the banks weren't lending, so the government said, well, we'll give startup loans to young entrepreneurs. So I was helping them develop models around how do you approve a loan for someone who comes up with an idea?
How do you value it?
How do you value it? How much money to give them? So it's really a social loan. So, but it's really interesting. I mean, fascinating work. But while I was doing that, Bitcoin suddenly hit the headlines, and I was sort of going. Yeah. Part of me was going, yay, I'm not on my own. Part of me was going, damn. I feel like,
so have
they just got in ahead of me here?
So obviously you're a multi-billionaire now because you bought all those bitcoins.
Yeah, honestly, and I'm like everyone else. I went trying to find my ZX Spectrum in the local garbage tip. Yeah, no. There are stories of people trying to refine, those 10, even just 10 bitcoins in mine 10 years ago. Think how much they're worth now. Yeah. Going for a house with them.
What are they now?
$15,000.
Because they did have quite a volatile period.
Literally yesterday and today it could be. Who knows? So.
I've got friends saying they're going to be 100,000 bitcoin. They're going to be 100,000. Yeah.
They're going to actually mine 100,000.
No, they're going to be the bitcoins are worth 100,000. Well, because if it becomes global. Because at the moment it's speculative, isn't it? It's not really a currency.
There is actually a limit on the number of bitcoins that you can mine.
32 million, is
it? I was going to say 28, but it might be
something like that.
Yeah. And who knows? And as soon as all currencies are a scarce resource, which think about that. I'm not too sure about that actually.
I was going to say unless they're fiat, fractional reserve lending currency. Anyway, we won't go into that.
I was just going to say that it's ironic, isn't it, that I found out about Bitcoin through a guy called Simon Dixon who runs Bank to the Future. Yeah. And in order for his business to be more successful, he emigrated to Japan.
What? I thought he went to Hong Kong.
No, Japan.
Did he go to Japan?
Yeah, I think so.
Because.
Have I got that wrong?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I think Hong Kong.
Okay. But he went to Hong Kong.
He couldn't make it here anyway.
Google Simon Dixon, find out.
Yeah, let me know.
put Gill right for me.
Yeah, thanks.
But Simon Dixon was crowdfunding, wasn't he? He was about crowdfunding. That was his.
He'd had lots of irons in the fire, but But that's the first time I've kind of been aware of Back to the Future. So that was about 2008, I suppose, 2009, something like that.
Yeah, and that was when, strange enough, we're talking about adversity being the mother of all invention. So Bitcoin and crowdfunding, that all started during a recession on the back of a global financial meltdown.
Yeah. Well,
okay. So now we're getting closer. So you turn up in England, married.
Yes. Same life.
Same life. That's it.
Lovely, good. So how did because obviously at the moment you're a photographer. That's what you do for a living.
Yeah.
As well as all your millions of bitcoins, obviously that you don't have.
I don't.
But how did? So what was it that drew you to picking up the camera and saying I want to shoot pictures?
Well, when I got ill, I had to do a lot of work to get myself back up and running again. And on the back of that, it was really around who am I think it was a big question when I came back, because unfortunately I don't have time to go into everything that happened, but it really was, who am I really? Because remember we talked about that need for survival and the going down the academic route. So, okay, let's strip that away. Let's strip away that need, strip away that academic need to go down that academic route. Who am I? Well, it turns out that yes, I managed to, as I said, put my head down, and I've got the capacity to go and pick up a whole lot of information, regurgitate it, and then go and. Yeah.
So would you say you're a fast learner, or you can? Nowadays, you can learn very quickly on your own, can't you?
Yeah, I have that ability to just regurgitate stuff, but I don't think it's really who I am. Do you know what I mean? It is a very academic world, and I realised through things that happened through my childhood, my very, very young childhood, actually pre-memory stuff, we're going back to now, and this is all kind of the work I was doing, that I actually have part of the things that happened around that time. I had to develop some survival techniques, and one of them was going off into my own little daydream world. And if you go for the daydream world, you have a very, very vivid imagination. And that imagination and creativity, you can see it just popping out now and again. I can see it. I won an Easter egg competition, colouring competition when I was 8 years old, believe it or not. And then when I picked up a camera in Japan, this was trying to counter what became a quite stressful job. I took up photography, and an American photographer, and he actually said to me, first 10,000 shots is just practice. So he gave me all the kind of the basic tools of how to, the kind of like the foundation of photography, but then off on your own, 10,000 shots, and then you kind of like, you'll understand what a camera is, and then you've actually got to go and develop your own style, beyond that. So I think it was shot 3,460, I still remember it.
3,460.
So you're further the way through my supposed 10,000.
Another aha.
And I took it, I quite like that photo. And I seen it, I was waiting to go into the cinema, I was looking down to the street, and there's all these colourful umbrellas going through, and my imagination went, wow, what a great shot to have, kind of like these. And I did it panning, so there was just a slight blur, and the movement came in the photographs, and the colour came in. And I looked at it and I went, oh, that's exactly how I kind of imagined it. And back to imagination. And I thought, I'll put it in for a competition, and it won shot of the day in one of these kind of pro digital DSLR magazines. And I thought, oh, hold on a minute, there's maybe something in this. And then just from there, another one, another shot of the day, and then kind of like, and then I started doing events, and then I realised that was my thing, was events. And then again, that was part of, when I came back with lots of things, I started the currency, I did the photography, and I went as far as putting my name, registering my company in Yale and doing a website, and then we're back to the illness again. So then, literally you can see everything's just come to a grinding halt, and then, so...
Does it halt, or is it like you can still... No, that's the thing when you operate on your own. That's one of the things that, as within the community, there's a lot of, self-employed consultants or one, and if they can't work, they can't earn money. So it's a very vulnerable position to be in. So you're just getting off the ground with...
Oh, no, it was actually, it came to a grinding halt. I could not operate, I could not function. It was, everything went down to zero. And so you can imagine my poor wife, she's come back to foreign country, and her husband's health just collapsed on her. And, this is when you've married the right person. She stood by me. And so she had to go out and... She didn't have to find a job, but she wanted to find a job, wanted to do something. But yeah, she suddenly found herself in a position where she was working and I wasn't, which was a complete role reversal. And credit to her, she's done absolutely amazing things. What she's done with her life, to adversity, and mother of all invention. It's amazing where she got to, and what she found she was capable of. And but it all came to a grinding halt, and then. But do you remember that listing I put on Yale? That was part of why I'm sitting here today, because I was just coming out of the illness, coming back up, and I still wasn't functioning. I wasn't, no way I could hold down a job or run your own business, anything like that. And someone from BNI phoned me up and said, we're starting a new chapter, we need photographers, would you like to come along to the meeting? And I went, whatever.
Is that because of the space you were in?
That space I was in, that was in June. We were on 3 months to September last year, and I went, okay, I'm now in a space where I was out for literally 3 years. That's how long I was out.
Wow, I had no idea.
So, and then September I was like, oh, okay, I'm now in a space where I'm a bit more open-minded. Energy levels are back up where I can operate, and I went along there and thought, okay, I like the group, I like the setup, I like the concept, and came back with to my wife and said, well, wherever this goes, I have no idea where this journey is going to go, but it can be part of that getting me back up onto the kind of like. And through BNI, I've discovered BeCollaboration. So that's how That listing in Yale is why we're sitting.
Well, it's strange, isn't it?
But how these little things.
Ironically, the people that told you about BeCollaboration had never been to a meeting.
No. Oh really?
No, not at all. So it's
so
strange,
you don't.
isn't it?
Those names don't ring a bell to you. Then?
Tracy does, yes, because she booked in. I think she's booked in twice to come, but she's never actually turned up.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think she has she? No, don't think so. But yeah, it's fascinating. So going back to what you were saying about taking that photo, I love that image of and your creativity that's kind of always been there within you. When you went on the Be Inspired Day, that was one of the things that you acknowledged as part of your being, wasn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's a shame we don't have time to go into the reasons why we got to that point, but another time. But
you have to come back
I'll have to do that. That's an hour and a half on its own.
Yeah.
But yes, no, absolutely. In the Be Inspired program, it's that is all around your true being. Who are you, and how do you fit into the world? And so it was tremendous to be on that course and kind of acknowledge what there were three words I came out with: caring, creative, and innovation. And if you go back from what we've just been discussing, like the currency, that's the innovation, the creativity is I guess the photography and the caring. The caring part, that's tied into that pre-memory stuff I was talking about. I have a huge need actually to look after other people, and you can see it ties into. Look at event photography. I'm trying to capture people's micro emotions and trying to connect people, make them happy. That's what photography is about. So it's back to that caring thing. The currency, that's all around trying to help people, support people who. So you can go off and do what you want in the world without having to use this awful thing called money. So you kind of so the Be Inspired program kind of brought it down to 3 words. Everything we
focused it down. But it's interesting what you said about. I just thought I'd offer you this and just an observation what you said about, because you said it yesterday as well about when you do events you like those micro expressions.
Yes.
I think what I love about that is you noticed something that could have been missed, that would have been missed, and captured it.
Oh yeah, and and
do you know what I mean? It could be a little look from one person to another. It could be a little glint of happiness, or you sometimes catch people in a bit of, and I think you've got to pull an eye out for that to notice it and not only notice it but be shot ready to capture it and then bring people back and look, this is what the event was about, or this is what the occasion was, and these are all the little nuances that kind of because our faces have so many ways of expressing delight, joy, whatever, and then noticing those is a real. You've got to care about it to be that. I tell you where I'm coming from as well. So when I'm in the front of the room, part of it is reading where people are at.
Yes.
And some of it is very subtle.
Yes.
Sometimes people sitting like they're blank, and you think, I'm not getting anything out of this guy. And I've got to kind of, I know I haven't got him yet. And bang, suddenly something will tip, and then you notice, they're in now. They're with us. We're not leaving anyone behind.
Yes. Well, yes, and it's. I think it's an essence of humanity because those micro expressions. Doesn't matter what culture, continent you're from, age, society.
A flicker of fear is going to look the same on anybody, isn't it? Or a flicker of happiness.
In the tribes in the middle of the Amazon as it is here. We are one of the rare animals on this planet. We only have one species, and it really is the same micro expressions. And the interesting thing I love about it is, do you know what? You can't hide them. Apparently, unless you're a psychopath. Apparently, psychopaths can't hide them.
Yes, I know one.
So I just love that feeling. So, because I'm so sensitive to body language, when I can almost sit there and get ready and go. You almost anticipate what's coming, and you go, hold on, 3, 2, 1, and then you get the head drop back, laughter comes out, or whatever emotion you anticipate comes, and you're ready to go.
So just out of curiosity, how do you package that as a product? Do you give people it digitally, or can they buy it in lots of because I've been involved in photography companies as well, and companies that develop. So how do you have other ways of? Well, I don't know. I'm just asking. How do you give them a?
I mean, I can do whatever the client wants is the answer to that.
Okay.
But nowadays, most people want stuff digitally because, I mean, there used to be the days where the photographer did kind of end-to-end service, kind of like the album.
Yeah.
There's no point in you offering that service anymore. There's people that do it a lot quicker and better and faster than you do. So I'll do it for you if you want me to. But why would you want me to do it when you've got... So it's all about the digital image. And the other thing I found is, if you're just doing digital images now, the speed at which you deliver that service has become increasingly important, because if you can deliver that within 48 hours, then not only am I processing when I still remember the emotions around that and feelings around that event. So if I'm sitting there with a big smile on my face processing the photographs, you've done it. You know you're in the right space. You know you've captured it and you're happy. I'm happy, and you know they're going to be happy because you captured it. And the great thing about giving them within 48 hours, they can still remember what it's like. So, you know, it's not a month ago or 2 weeks ago.
That's pretty cool. I've heard a lot of people have a moan about, it took nearly 2 months for more photos for the wedding to come back, and it's like, well, it's such a shame because it's too far.
Given while they're on honeymoon, how cool is that?
Well, what I was going to say is also, like, if we remember early, I mean, I used to take photographs when I was a kid, and you took your pictures, and you went down to the chemist. And then a week later, you got them back, and then you went, that was rubbish. That was rubbish.
It's come out blank.
But on that note, I think we're taking more photographs now than we've done in history because of the phones, and you don't even go, pass me my phone, I want to take a picture. Which is kind of weird, isn't it? Really?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, how many of those photographs are actually getting developed now? I haven't developed photos in a long time.
No.
You know, you don't have. I have bags full of photos from old times in albums and stuff, right? But we don't do that now. So how are people making the most, even if they're taking photographs? They're all in their laptop or their hard drive.
Yeah, do you know, I think the iPhone and social media, the combination of the two, are going to change photography while they still exist, because you don't put them in an album anymore, you put them on Instagram and you share them, and then they are stored on there, and you can go in and flick through them anytime you want to, and that is how you share photographs now.
So in a way we've expanded the ability to share it, because that photo now, your auntie in friends all over the world.
But it's still a different sort of feeling.
Yeah,
sitting there with an iPad going, look at that, as opposed to, it's a kind of different space, isn't it? On your own, flicking through in Australia, great, it's convenient and it's nice, but when you sit down around an album...
I'll tell you something really funny happened once. So we gave, I think it was Tyler or Senna, one of them, a picture of the frame, and she went, that's nice, and she went... and we went, it's not, and she like, because it's, like that, you know.
Do you know, it was just on the tip of my tongue to say that, because you're saying that you like the album, but we've got a whole generation that we don't know any different. So if you've been brought up with that, the expectation is I want it digitally.
Well, we say a lot, don't we, that BeCollaboration is full of people that are pre-digital, remember those good old days. And there was a thing on Facebook the other day where there was a teenager asked to make a phone call on an old-fashioned phone, and she's kind of, where do I? And it was a dial one, so you had to dial it, and she was trying to push in the holes. She didn't even know about picking the receiver up. Or she was, 12 or something, but it's like, oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
Why would anybody expect to do that? You know.
No, different world. So
within BeCollaboration going forward, with this wonderful talent and creativity that you have, and your leaning for innovation, how do you see you fitting in with the community?
Very good question. I mean, I'm excited with that question because, pun intended, there is a lot of possibility. I think that's the way I feel about the community. I feel quite excited. I think there is infinite possibilities as to where it's going to go, and I think it's going to be a lot around who you meet, the timing, and what you want to do. I'm not going to leave it completely to chance. I've definitely got ideas. So I think within, I think there's two things I'll explore within the community, and I have no idea where they're going to go. I think within the photography side of things, I have this theory, and I'm testing it, and so far I've had a good response, but we'll find out, that a lot of social media photographs from smaller companies tend to be one-dimensional. So they're all about putting the product up, and I'm just thinking, how is that going to connect your company to... It doesn't connect, it's just a product. So it doesn't tell your story, it doesn't tell who you are, it doesn't tell you about your connection with it, it doesn't tell you why people buy from you, it's not in there. So that's one aspect I really want to explore that. It's kind of expand, using business models and personal experiences and connecting to that photography. And the other one I want to explore, no surprises on this one, is going to be the currency.
Yeah.
I'll clarify that, not currency, it is going to be a medium of exchange. That's what I'd like to explore. But I think, because I've been dipping in and out of this since 2003, one of the things I have discovered is that every different community has a different take on it. So my idea would be around building a platform that isn't one-dimensional, that is, you can develop within your own community. So almost like it's like a piece of plasticine, so you can take this platform and make this medium exchange, mould it to what you need for that community, I think. So I'll be very interested to see if I can get someone, I really want someone who's a programmer who can come in, who understands BeCollaboration and the whole philosophy around it, and I can work with them. And then at the same time, in parallel, really take it to the community and go, well, what do you guys, how do you view this? I mean, I've got some very definite ideas, but that's not really what it's about. I'm really interested to see, throw it out there and see what kind of ripples come back out of come back down the pond. And then of course then you have the asset litmus test of how if you're creating this platform, you'll have kind of a set of parameters to how you might think it might work, and then you can test it against what comes back from the community. Does that then fit into that plasticine mold? Is it malleable enough?
So we need a programmer or 3 or 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just one. Just one to start with.
If you get 5, you've got a choice then, haven't you? Which one fits?
It's interesting you say, because over the years we've kind of flirted with platforms for the community.
Yes.
And we were given all sorts of starting figures for what we need in terms of money, and also Jill and I are not really digital.
Yes.
No. Is that fair?
Yeah.
We're not. But like most of us, we're battling through. We're making use of certain technologies and not so much the others, right? But there was this idea of building a platform, and then suddenly we're now testing. I'm not going to name anyway. I'm just not going to name it because in case we don't use it later and whatever. But we're working with a platform that now is actually pre-built, that you can just slip into and start populating with your content and your people, and then they can start the engagement. So that's something we're going to start making more of a noise about, so people can join anywhere in the world. Now, if we wanted to do this, what we're doing today, I don't know, millions probably, I don't know, who knows, right? So now we can have that for like a small monthly cess fee. Do you think there's an argument for creating a platform that different communities, like wherever they want to be, whether it's people in science or people in art, or create an internal currency that works with, like you had, what was that virtual world called? They had Linden dollars, didn't they?
Yes.
Second Life.
Something like that. I know which one you're talking about. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, but they had a currency in it. I think you bought with dollars. You bought your Linden. I think they're called Linden dollars, and then you spent them within the. People it becomes an internal currency. I can't see why you can't build a platform that says, right, there's your white label product.
Yes.
And if that's something we could create for BeCollaboration, and then give it to other communities and say you want to run your own, internal currency as a community, here you go. It's white labelled. It's all ready to go. All you've got to do. I think that could be something extraordinary.
Extraordinary, and then the possibilities beyond that are phenomenal, because depending on what you want to do with the currency, it will change people's behaviours, and especially if you're companies and you say you might want to find a little bit more collaboration from your employees, then wow, you've got a tool, a very powerful tool to be able to use that. So it can be just a medium of exchange, or there's endless possibilities beyond that. I think in terms of
it's better than renting your money, isn't it?
Rent.
Well, that's what we do technically. We rent.
Oh yes,
because all money's debt. So our monetary system, a certain percentage of our GDP, our gross product as a species, is just covering interest on money. And I think in England it's like 197 million a day. So what about if we had that money for schools, for nurses,
Well, the incredible thing is, I mean, I shouldn't say this, I'm going to say it is one of my ideas, so I don't really want to pollute, so we'll keep this on the podcast, and hopefully I'm not going to pollute it too much into the community. But what would happen if you weren't allowed to store money, or you had a limit on the storage of money? How would that change people's behaviour?
Well, it's a bit like in Cyprus when the government took away anybody who had more than £100,000. It's like, what? How can you you do that? And they just did. And the amount of stories that we've heard since then of people that have just been... Overnight, they had put their money there because they sold a property in Australia and they were living in the UK, and it was just there for like 2 days, and they lost like 250 grand.
I know.
Because it was like, it's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of the platform and BeCollaboration, absolutely. I mean, I think the possibilities are endless of what you can do with that. It really can be the limitation is only your imagination.
Yeah.
Because at the moment, a monetary system actually leads to massive hoarding of huge amounts of wealth in very small, concentrated hands. You think, well, it's almost like, if you collected anything else at that level, you'd say that people are mentally disturbed. But you're collecting millions, if not billions of pounds or dollars, and they're sitting in accounts doing nothing.
And then, if you think of, because we go back to the education part, that's the economics. So you think of the supply of money, and there's very little governance over that now. There used to be governments that give the supply of money, and it's now gone out to financial institutions. So, if you have an ever increasing supply of money, and it's increasing small number of hands, and the value of assets therefore are going to go up. Supply and demand of money, and then suddenly you're going to have these massive inflated asset prices, and concentrated in a very small number of hands, and that can't be good for any community.
Look
at what's happened.
Yeah.
I think there's I love the statistic that just before the burst of the financial crisis, there was 33 times the amount of currency in circulation than there was the global GDP.
Yes, there you go.
Wow.
So that's a highly leveraged society, isn't it? Everybody's in way more debt than they can ever... Well, there is also this thing about there's more debt than there is money anyway, so we can't clear the debt out. Ever.
No.
Ever. Because as soon as you issue $1,000, it's already ticking up, tick, 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 it's paying... That $1,000 has got to create... And then... So therefore we're in this eternal debt.
Yeah.
There's a really fantastic book called Last 5,000 Years of Debt. I can't remember the author now. I think it's David Gray, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I've gone through that book a few times about how we used to have different forms of money. But one of the themes that's been in the history of humanity is debt jubilees, where we just write debt off.
Yeah.
So because it's not going to get paid back, so you might as well just start, reset and start again. Because I think something like that happened in Japan, didn't it? When they had hyperinflation in properties.
Germany as well.
Germany, well, I was just going to say, during the hyperinflation of Germany, there was when you were talking about in South Africa around, so what's the name of the community? Ubuntu. It went to my brain and we never got to actually chat about it, but there was one in Germany that they set up during the hyperinflation to get around the ridiculous, I would literally go around with a shopping trolley full of money
for a loaf of bread.
So they set up for a loaf of bread, so they set up their own kind of local community, and it was incredibly successful. For the same reasons it is in South Africa. It was so successful it got shut down.
Yes, it would.
It was a threat to.
You nearly started me off on a whole.
No.
So, is there
save it for part 2.
Is there anything else you'd like to add, Nick?
No, just to say thank you very much for today, and thank you very much for, for BeCollaboration more than anything else. I've really enjoyed it and looking forward to the future with it.
If someone here is listening or watching today, how can they get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me, Nick Horton Photography, go through there, or nick@horton.jp. There you go, out to the world.
There we go. And we'll list any other contact
but
details.
Yes, but please, I'd love to chat to anyone if anything resonates.
And if there's a programmer out there that's been enticed by what Nick has been talking about today, then please get in touch. Come to BeCollaboration meeting.
Yeah, help us create a new medium exchange.
Yes, medium exchange.
Yeah. So we have, just to remind you all, we have our last meeting before the summer break in London on Tuesday 24th. Hopefully this video will be out by then. I think it will.
Yeah, I think
so. I'm going to do
You're
it.
really good.
And I don't have to bother anybody else. And just for a date for your diary is the 22nd of September in Hertfordshire, at Hatfield at the Hertfordshire University is our next Be Inspired programme. All the details for Be Inspired are on our website. We have a friends and family deal, so if you consider yourself a friend or family, just click there and you get the discount. Collaborators, you know what to do, and anything else you'd like to add, Jill?
I think that's it. We'll look forward. Well, podcasts will be carrying on throughout August, even though we're having a sort of a hiatus from the meetings, but we'll still be doing the podcast.
Yeah, one of the things we're going to take on, rather than just doing them here physically, we're going to also be doing them online and then putting them live as well, straight onto.
We're getting techie.
We're getting quite, we're getting quite ambitious. So I want to say thank you, Nick. It's been
Thank you.
fantastic having you here.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Very enjoyable.
See you. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.